We're continuing the Sikha Torah Chadasha from page 578. 578 on the second column in Ois Yud Dalet. Got it?
Yeah.
So the last point we learned last week was the Rebbe explained why Lasid Lovai the halacha will be like Beis Shammai, even though it seems like Beis Shammai is the one that's more strict. Beis Shammai is the one that's more prohibitive. Beis Hillel is more lenient and more liberal and more everything's allowed. Not everything, but in other words, comparing to Beis Shammai. So it seems like when Mashiach comes, everything should be no restrictions. But the Rebbe explained, Adarabah, Asad Lavai, when the real full revelation of godliness will be in this world, so then any tiny little most subtle vestige of evil that exists will also be recognized and will be eradicated. And that's the basis of Beis Shammai's opinion. Beis Hillel only focuses on more stronger evil that exists in the world, and therefore that's what Beis Hillel says that you have to stay away from. Things that are very subtle evil, in this time in the Galus, we can't really deal with it at all. So when you have the full revelation of godliness, it will negate and it will eradicate even the most tiniest, the most subtle evil. That was the point we learned last week. The Rebbe, in this ice now, will explain a very interesting connection to Shavuos. After all, the Sikha was said in Shavuos. So the Rebbe here will explain a connection to Shavuos. Very unusual, very interesting. And then the Rebbe still has to come back to the general theme of the Sikha, which spoke about the Shechita. If anyone remembers, we started the Sikha quite a couple of months ago, but it speaks about the Shechita, the Lava, the Sheir Bar will be slaughtered by the fins of the Levyasan. The Rebbe will get back to that. But let's start with Ois Yud Dalet. Page 578. Got it? Yesh Lo Haisif. Now we can add that this is connected to Shavuos. Shekam b'kesher b'shaychus l'chag Shavuos man matan Torah seinu, in connection with Shavuos zman matan Torah gam haTorah chadasha shemiiti teitze. That includes also the new dimension of Torah that we will have when Mashiach comes. When was it really given? At Matan Torah. Rabbi brought before in the Sikha Siv Daled that there is no second Matan Torah. Matan Torah happened once, and the Eibishter gave the Torah fully. The Lashon is always brought in Chassidus. Matan Torah nachamal vet netzayin. There's no second Matan Torah. So the Torah was given then. So regarding Shavuos, Matzino Dugma Sa'inyan da halacha keBeis Shammai. We find a halacha regarding Shavuos similar to the way it'll be when Mashiach comes, that we pass on like Beis Shammai. Similar to the way it will be when Mashiach comes. And the Rebbe in order 125 points to the fact that the Rebbe says in Tanya, Perek Lamed Vav, the whole experience and the whole event of Matan Torah is considered to be a somewhat of the revelation that will be when Mashiach will come. So, what is it that you see regarding Shavuos that we follow Beis Shammai's opinion? So this is something Bisman Shabbos in English Kayam, but it also has a relevance today. At the end of the halachas of Shavuos, the Alter Rebbe writes as follows: the day after Shavuos, you're not allowed to fast on this day. It's not only a minig or a hidor, other yomim tovim and Isra Chag. It's only a minig. On this day, the day after Shavuos, me'ikeret, you're not allowed to fast. Because this, in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, was the day of slaughtering. Meaning this was the day that the people that came to the Beis Hamikdash, and they had to bring a special carbon when you enter into the Azara. So you have to bring a special carbon called the carbon Oilas Re'iyah, a carbon which is fully dedicated to the Mizbeach, which is when the Azara. When was that carbon brought? Not on the Yom Tov itself, the day after Yom Tov. On this day, they brought the carbon Oilas Re'iyah, that way they were unable to bring on Yom Tov itself. Why not? Again?
No.
Yeah. Tashlumin.
There's the days of Tashluma, which are 7 days. True, but over here, we're talking not about all 7 days. We're talking just about the day after Shavuos.
That's not part of Tashlum.
Well, it is.
It
Sure,
is
it
part
is.
of the
It's part of the 7 days. But there was a specific. This day itself was a very busy day in the Beis Hamikdash. Tashlumin is for people that were procrastinators, or people that delayed the mitzvah. So they had 7 days.
Yeah.
But this, what the Alter Rebbe is saying here is that not the people that were waiting to delay the mitzvah. You were not allowed to bring it on Yom Tov itself. So your first opportunity to bring the carbon was the day after Shavuos.
That's a sheet of Bishama.
Right, as the Alter Rebbe will bring over here. Now, what's the reason why I can't bring a carbon oilus here on Yom Tov? Are you allowed to do malacha on Yom Tov or not?
Yeah.
So usually the rule is if it's a malacha that has a purpose for oichel nefesh, but if it's a carbon, so seemingly it should depend what kind of carbon it is. If it's a carbon like a shlomim, part of the meat is eaten by the kohanim have to eat, the owners have to eat. So that's a shechita which you're going to eat. But if it's a carbon oila goes up. Kulei Hashem on the mizbeach. There's no oichel nefesh b'chlal. So could you shech the carbon oila on a Yom Tov? It's a machlekes b'shama and b'silul. Beis says, he learned it from a pasuk, that even though there's no meat you're going to eat from it, it can be brought on the Yom Tov itself. Beis Shammai says, no, it's a carbon that you can't eat anything from it, you can't bring it on the Yom Tov itself. So here the Alter Rebbe is saying that they could not bring the carbon oilasriya on Yom Tov. They're not going to use, nothing of this carbon will be eaten. The Alter Rebbe explains, this is only Beis Shammai's opinion. The Mishnah says that according to Beis Hillel, muter la'akrivam, you're allowed to bring the carbon af b'yom tov atzmai. So we always paskin like Beis Hillel. So in this case as well, probably most of Klal Yisrael, if not all of Klal Yisrael, followed Beis Hillel's opinion and should have brought the carbon on Yom Tov itself. However, the Alter Rebbe says, Kivin shebedavar zeh, when it came to this matter, also Beis Hillel kivreim. Even the Beis Hillel themselves followed Beis Shammai's opinion. And the harbe Yisrael nagu kamaisam, and many of the Yidden as well. Also, their custom was like Beis Shammai's opinion, and Beis Hillel that did like Beis Shammai la krivanach Yom Tov, to bring the carbon the day after Yom Tov. So therefore, benasalem yom zeh shehu motzi Yom Tov. So this day, the day after Yom Tov, became kemo Yom Tov atzmai. This was like the biggest celebration. This was the day that everybody came to the Beis Hamikdash with their karbanos. And therefore becomes also v'hesped, no eulogy on this day, tainus, no fasting. That was in the time of the Beis Hamikdash. Not no eulogy, no fasting on this day.
Why make a chiluk by this carbon on Shabbos? You let it bring a carbon oil.
Right. So
Okay,
good
you're going to
question.
make Yom Tov more stricter than Shabbos?
So wait. So the difference is when it comes to the carbon oil that you're allowed to bring on Shabbos, that's a carbon sibur. Right. That's a carbon sibur, like the carbon tamid, which is a carbon sibur. Carbon musaf, which is a carbon for the whole sibur. Here, this is the obligation for every individual to bring a carbon. Ask the kohen; he'll tell you all the halachas of karbanos.
But it's brought for Yom Tov. Like you know,
That's interesting. The whole point is for the Yom Tov. Correct.
Bring it on the Yom Tov.
Yep, you still come. That the Rebbe explains that question in another Sikha B'chlal. You look over here in Orah on 27. Habir al derech hanigla. If you want to see the pshat in this Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch, long arichis chelik chavches page 24. Right, the Rebbe explains the Sayal Pinigla, and the Rebbe explains the Sayal Tichsidus B'chlal. This is the Alter Rebbe writes here. The dov v'zeh osu v'siluk kedivreim. This is the Alter Rebbe's chiddush. It doesn't say this anywhere. Not in Gemara. The Pashtus, it doesn't say it in any Rishonim either. This is the Alter Rebbe's chiddush that over here the Beis Hillel did like Beis Shammai. And this is a famous question of the Rebbe. Where did he take this from? Okay, and also, how could it be? The mitzvah is to bring it for the Oyel Regel, and you could only bring it the day after. The Rebbe explains it al pichsidus, al pinigla, big arichis. But here in this sikha, the Rebbe is going to focus just on one prat, one detail that we're talking about here. The fact that we find that in connection to Shavuos, we're following Beis Shammai's opinion and not Beis Hillel's opinion. And the Rebbe explains this with another very, very interesting introduction regarding Shavuos. I don't think this is such a known thing, B'chlal. So the explanation here is according to Chassidus on the deeper level, what this Gemara, what this halacha really tells us, that over here Beis Hillel acted like Beis Shammai. Isa b'Gemara, there's a Gemara in Shabbos that says there's a famous sugi in Shabbos that talks all about Matan Torah and Pevav, Pezayin, but this is later in Shabbos over there. The Gemara says as follows: Maili Yom Datzarta, on Erev Shavuos, Sakanta Lahakis Dam. It's a day that there's a danger. What is it a danger for? To let blood. Today you talk about a person taking out blood. It's not a big deal. You go into the doctor's office, you take out blood, you walk out, and everything's good and fine. In the time of the Gemara, there's different things there in that place in Shabbos and in other places where the Gemara talks about When you take blood, what you should eat on that day, what you shouldn't eat that day, which activities you should do, which activities you shouldn't do, and where you should do it. You should do it in a house that the walls are made from marble and it has to be very insulated from any wind so the person shouldn't get weak. Whatever the case is, either because medical advance wasn't then the way it is today, or because maybe when they took out blood then they took out much more blood than today. But for whatever reason, the Gemara considers hakazas dam to be a big deal. So the Gemara says this hakazas dam, letting blood, should not be done on Erev Shavuos. Why not? It's a day which is a danger. Mishum, because what happened was the first time when Yidden came to accept the Torah, the Nafik Beizike, a wind came out. Vishmei Tavoyach. The name of this wind was Tavoyach. What was this wind here for? The Eloi Kiblu Yisrael Torah. If Yidden would not accept this Torah, have a Tavach Lohul B'Israel Adamayu. This wind would have been like a hurricane, and it would have slaughtered the Yidden. It would have killed them, and they would have been flesh and blood. That's what the Gemara says. So therefore, every year, Erev Shavuos, you're receiving the Torah again. There's a new Kabbalah Satayra. On Erev Shavuos, there's this wind, there's sort of this danger that whether Yidden are going to accept the Torah again. That's what the Gemara says. Right, correct. But we know whatever happens the first time, Hayam Melin Eskarim V'Nasim. So there's a repetition of a deeper acceptance of the Torah. So there's this concept, there's this wind that has this name Tavoyach. Okay, so this name Tavoyach, why is it called Tavoyach? Tavoyach means to slaughter, right? So Tavoyach means that the Yidden would have gotten slaughtered if they wouldn't have received the Torah, wouldn't have accepted the Torah. So the Marsha asks that if you look at the word Tavoyach in Hebrew, the grammar of this word, so it doesn't seem to fit. Tavuach or tavuach. What does the word tavuach mean? Tavuach means that the wind itself got slaughtered, that it is getting slaughtered. The right wording should have been elatoiveach, that it's going to be toiveach someone else, that this wind is coming to slaughter the Yidden if they don't accept the Torah. Shabbat l'toyach acherim. So why is the wind called tavuach, that it gets slaughtered? So the Marsha answers, umitaretz.
Does it mean the one that slaughters?
No, that's not what it means. Tavuach means that he gets slaughtered. So why does the wind get slaughtered? So the Marsha says as follows: Hahuzike, this wind that the Gemara speaks about, who is this wind? Shuhu Satan hu Yetzirah. That's what it is. It's the Satan, the Yetzirah that's trying to come and then disturb Yidden. Hu ruach ma. He calls this a ruach of ma. I'm not sure what the term ma here means, but this is the ruach of the Yetzirah. Malachamavis. Okay, maybe. Very good. Malachamavis. Shabal l'tvayach es Yisrael. He's coming to slaughter the Yidden. Ilu lekiblu atayre. If the Yidden would not accept the Torah. Now, but what happened? Avakiv mishakiblu atayre. The Yidden did accept the Torah. The kofshus yitzram. So they conquered the Yetzirah that tried to disturb them from receiving the Torah. What happened is Zafchu Yisrael as a Yetzirah. So the Yidden slaughtered the Yetzirah. So that's why the Gemara refers to this wind as tavuach, because of the result what ended up happening. That the wind itself, which is the Yetzirah, got slaughtered by the Yidden accepting the Torah. Okay? So that's
this wind is a metaphor
for the Yetzirah. Correct.
That's why after Shavuos is Yom Tov.
Tavuach, connected to this. Oh, let's see. So the Rebbe says this right now. So we can say, this is related to what the Alter Rebbe says, that the day after Shavuos is the day of slaughtering. Right? So of course, the simple pshat is like the Rebbe brought before. The day of slaughtering refers to the karbanis, but we could also say it means Zvichas Yetzirah. After Shavuos, we come and we shech the Yetzirah. Kalaima, what this means is as follows: B'mayla yamidat sarta on erev Chag Shavuos lefnei Kabbalah Satayra, before you didn't accept the Torah. So nafik beizika, there's a wind, the Yetzirah, the wind of the Yetzirah is blowing. There's a doubt whether Yidden are going to accept the Torah or not. Shabal tvayach es Yisrael, coming to slaughter Yidden, ilu loy kibla Torah, if Yidden will not accept the Torah. B'matzah Chag Shavuos la'achrei shekibla Torah, once Yidden accepted the Torah, nasa yom tavuach. So now Yidden accepted the Torah, so this is the day that we succeeded in slaughtering the Yetzirah. Al Shem shezavchu Yisrael es Yetzirah. So it's because of this that Yidden slaughtered the Yetzirah. This is very similar. The Rebbe doesn't bring it here, but the famous Gemara in Sukkah that says that Lasad Lavai, the Rebbe is going to bring the Yetzirah and he's going to shech the Yetzirah. Gemara describes how the Yetzirah will be killed and eradicated. Lasad Lavai, it will also be a shchita. Okay, this Sikha talks about Shchita, about the Shchita of the Sheir Bar, the Shchita of the Yetzer Hara. Okay. So now the Rebbe connects this back to the point that the day after Shavuos is related to the fact that they brought the Karbanis on this day because we're following Beis Shammai's opinion. Now, what's the reason why in this matter Beis followed Beis Shammai's opinion? And many Eden followed this opinion of Beis Shammai, that the carbon, the tavuach, the shchita of the karbanis, which apparently is related and it resembles also the shchita of the Yetzer Hara. So most Yidden did this the day after Shavuos, not Shavuos itself. The Rebbe says a very interesting thing here. Yeshlema we can explain as follows: should be Yom Tov Atzmai, on Yom Tov itself, which is Man Matan Torah Seinu, the day the Eibusha gives the Torah. Shekailo behelim, and this includes also, at least it's concealed, but it includes as well Gam HaTorah Chadasha Shemiiti Teitzei, the new level of Torah, the Torah of Moshiach, which are Taimei, V'Seidus HaTorah, the reasons and the secrets of Torah Shalamayla, Mishaychas L'Bir Rada, which is the level of Torah, as the Rebbe explained by Riches in the Sikha, that is unrelated to any evil, doesn't allow for any evil at all. Ein Mokem V'Tzairech L'Zvichas HaYetzer Hara. On the Yom Tov itself, in the time when Hashem is actually giving the Torah, which includes these secrets of the Torah, there's no place for Yetzer Hara here. There's no place to slaughter the Yetzer Hara. I think it's brought also in Ayem Yom, V'Negei to Shavuos, that on Shavuos itself, it's similar to what it says, that on Yom Kippur, the Satan can't be Mekatrik because Eibush is Mevalvel and the Eibush confuses to say the Yetzer Hara can't be Mekatrik. So that in Ayem Yom it says that according to what it says in Taisus, it's mashma that it's the same thing in Shavuos itself. When the Eibush gives the Torah to Yidden, on this day the Yetzer Hara can't be Mekatrik. You can't come and say anything bad about Yidden. So that's what the Rebbe is saying. On the day that the Torah is being given, it includes the deepest levels of Torah that are being given with it. So therefore, there's no room for bringing karbanis on Shavuos itself, which resembles shechting the Yetzer Hara, and that is keshitas Beis Shammai. This follows the approach of Beis Shammai, which the Rebbe already explained before. Shmitzad, my loss and believing that Torah. Beis Shammai was on a higher level of learning Torah. Mechadedit fei, they were sharper. Sharper doesn't just mean in intelligence. Sharper means in their level to be able to zero into the essence of the Torah. Shailalim umevatlim, you're able to negate and eradicate gamra anelam, even the most subtle, most hidden level of evil. V'afsharos liim biltiratzi, even a potential of anything negative. That's a Yom Tov itself. So therefore, Matzah Chag Shavuos, only the day after Shavuos, Dafke Hu Yom Tovayach. Then, when it's not that time of revelation of the Torah, the day after, only then do you have to come and shech the Yetzer Hara. That's why it's called Yom Tovayach, which means, in other words, a sof bisman hazeh, even though the day of Matan Torah is a time when we shech the Yetzer Hara, but we don't shech him completely. We don't eradicate him completely. If we were to, then Mashiach would be here already 100%. Asad Lavi, the Gemara describes in Sukkah, the Eibush will get rid of the Yetzer Hara and shech them completely. Today, on Shavuos itself, when there's a tremendous gilui, which is similar to Yemais HaMashiach, so on the day of Shavuos, there's no effect, there's no power of the Yetzer Hara in the world at all. So there's no karbanis that the Yidden have to bring as individuals. There's the karbanis tzibur, but not the individual karbanis. That's connected to shechting the Yetzer Hara. The day after Shavuos, that's the day when you have to shech the Yetzer Hara. Okay, that's the Nakuda here, the connection that Rebbe explains to the opinion of Beis Shammai. Let's see what it says in the Orah 131. The Rebbe connects this to the halacha of Yom Tov. So as I mentioned before, 131, the footnote at the bottom of the page. What is the halacha of malacha on Yom Tov? If it's a malacha that there's eichel nefesh, it's allowed. If it's a malacha that there's no eichel nefesh, it's not allowed. So the Rebbe here brings, Kaloshen Rabbeinu Azakin, the Alter Rebbe there in Shulchan Aruch says, Lehoyu yichayil nahakir b'Yom Tov atzmai. They did not bring the carbon oila on Yom Tov itself, because there's nothing of this that you can eat. The Yeshleima, this also means spiritually. Human food for human consumption. What does that mean? It's referring to really the nefesh alakis, food that the neshama could eat. The loy b'shayches l'birur Yetzer Hara. And therefore, and it's not talking about the food that's shaykh to the Yetzer Hara. Okay, so therefore, this kind of a carbon where there's no food for the neshama, Shavuos itself is a time dedicated for the neshama, receiving the Torah, the secrets of the Torah, the deepest secrets of the Torah, and therefore it's a time where this kind of a carbon, which is not connected to the neshama, there's no room for this kind of a carbon. It's very interesting what the Rebbe is saying here, because according to what it says here, it comes out the opposite of the way you think of this normally. Usually we think that which carbon is on a higher level, carbon oila or carbon shlamim. Carbon oil is on a higher level. The carbon oil is fully dedicated to the mizbeach, and you get nothing to eat from it, and to eat not for you, not for the kayan. That's kulul Hashem. That's the highest level of a carbon. You're fully dedicating it. Carbon shlamim, the bailam oichlim and okayin oichlim, bailam is kapirim. It's going down even lower. That's what it seems like. So the Rebbe here is saying the carbon that there's some human consumption. What does that mean? Who's the yid that's eating this? The yid that's eating this means that this is a carbon that's connected to the neshama. So this is a carbon that you can't say resembles just slaughtering the Yetzer Hara. It's not a carbon it's not just about slaughtering the Yetzer Hara. This is a yid is going to eat this. When the Kayanim ate the karbanis in the Beis Hamikdash, it's a mitzvah. A kain before he eats a carbon has to make a bracha. Shekachana b'mitzayis v'sivan. And what's the bracha? I'm not 100% sure. Alachilas kachim, probably right. Yeah, I'm just thinking whether there's a separate nusach for different individual karbanis. I don't think so. Then the Rambam says alachilas kachim. So it's a mitzvah. It's just like eating on Shabbos, for example. It's a mitzvah. The eating itself is kedusha mamish. So in other words, a carbon, it comes out that the carbon shlamim or all the other karbanis, where there's something that the yid or the kayin eats from the carbon, is in a higher level. That's a carbon that's related to the nefesh halakis. A carbon oila, which is shechted and is completely burnt on the mizbeach. Why is it being completely burnt? Because this is slaughtering the Yetzer Hara. You want to elevate the behemoth. You want to completely slaughter and get rid of the behemoth on the mizbeach. That's the Yetzer Hara. That kind of a carbon, an oila, cannot be brought in Yontif. When Yidden came, when they were oila regal, they had to bring another 2 karbanas, by the way, besides the carbon oila. They had to bring a shalmei chagiga, which is also a special carbon in honor of the Yontif. And besides that, they had to bring a shalmei simcha, in order to have enough meat to eat for the family. There's a mitzvah of Simchas Yom Tov that to bring a Shalmei Simcha. In case the Shalmei Chagiga didn't have enough meat, you have to bring a Shalmei Simcha. Were those allowed to be brought on Yom Tov? Of course. Yeah, they were shechter on Yom Tov, they were brought on Yom Tov, they were eaten on Yom Tov, they were eaten on Yom Tov. The carbon oil, though, the Rabbi here is telling you, it seems like it's on a higher level, but it's really connected to the Yetzer Hara. So that is something that's going to be slaughtered only on the day after Yom Tov. That's the word that I was saying.
At a deeper level than then just carbon sibur, the way you said before.
Correct. Carbon sibur is a different story. Carbon sibur is born in Yom Tov as well. Okay, we'll stop over here for today. We'll continue next week. Yeah. Okay, we're getting closer to the punchline, the end of the sikha. Okay, fine.